Chapter 17. Mind your own business, Grace snapped at 87's post-mortem of her recital as she strode out of class. Next time I could do it for you, he continued with a wicked grin. I've played with the best after all. Oh, how she wanted to wipe that smug expression from him. Ah, but as we've learned, he smirked, you don't have the talent for it. He watched her scarlet feathers ruffle beautifully, could almost feel the way the sun kissed her on that resin pathway, making him more than a little jealous of its reach. Forcing this critical ego from mind as best she could, Grace stared out across the quadrant for distraction. She could see Resnick on the other side, settling into practice. Ludus Bello was a brutal sport developed by Inter's Defense Department and had been adopted in most schools to weed out young talent. As tactical as chess, it used a mix of martial arts and rugby, turning the art of war into sport. All players held weapons assigned to role and rank, and wore body armor and helmets. These were coated in pressure pads and connected to mixed reality headsets. The overall aim of the game was to capture the other team's king, and when pressure pads indicated a fatality, the affected player would return to the bench, awarding points to the other team. There were 3 points for a pawn, 5 for a special, 10 for a queen, and 20 for a king. The game concluded when a king had been captured. She watched special players line up, either side of the king, with an array of various impressive weapons. They tended to focus on attacking the other team, knocking out the competition, and protecting pawns who focused on scoring points through goals. Pawns were only equipped with shields and moved on foot, while specials had dirt bikes, hybrids, and hoverboards. From the few games she'd seen, kings barked orders from their position through VR headsets, with tactical moves and high-impact hits projected onto large screens. Much to the crowd's excitement, spectators could experience hits firsthand using the right gear. Resnick made the team again? Taylor's eyes shone with mischief where she stood beside Grace. He's got a good seat. Her eyes glittered off him and the metallic hybrid he rode. Before the Troubles, Taylor had grown up on a farm and loved anything to do with animals, including Grace's brother, it seemed. We should hang out at yours more often, Taylor added with a wink, securing only a nervous laugh from Grace as she looped arms with her and strode toward the gate. You know, I'm beginning to think you're hiding something, Mrs. She eyed her red-headed friend as a warm voice beckoned from Pod Bay. Mum's here. The mischievous bounce in her eyes all but vanished as she glanced back at Grace. Look, I know you don't celebrate birthdays, Kaz. Well, you're a superstitious nut or something. So, happy Friday, she smiled, handing over a small ribbon bag. If you need, I can hang about. Have you stay at mine this weekend if... And miss the competition? Grace shook her head. I want to see that trophy. Taylor bounced back with a hug of such force that Grace felt her goodbye gush out. Watching Taylor hurry into the arms of her mum, Grace pottered off alone to find her own pod, opening the small blue box as she went. It held a miniature polyphone, a mechanical music box, its wooden case presenting beautifully carved images of cherubs and Greek gods, along with a set of 3 tiny metal discs. Its contents, like a map of sorts, each disc a song, an algorithm, able to transport the listener somewhere else. She'd have loved to spend the weekend at Taylor's, but Taylor had worked so hard to get to the finals of Inter's annual gymnastic competition. Besides, as far as birthdays went, they felt pretty unlucky, and Grace felt relieved if they slipped by largely unnoticed, which wouldn't happen if Taylor were around. A smile tugged at her glum expression, where she glanced up just in time to see the sample who turned into her. Grace braced for impact that never came. Behind his helmet, 87's eyes narrowed, a sort of tonic immobility having struck. Quite how he didn't know and certainly didn't wish to dwell on. But in person, right here, he saw the culmination of every moment in a way he'd never experienced, not even in Mobius. Grace glanced up from his badge. It read, Sample 87, but he abruptly turned and left. It was just as well, she decided. If he hadn't, she would no doubt have blurted out something ridiculous about the coincidence. Slumping into her pod, wondering what on earth could have possibly caused their presence at school, she watched him send other samples to the gate before he strode inside without a second glance. Taylor and the others had settled on the idea that Harrow was assisting Inter with tech development, but the guy she'd seen marching to the head's office gave the impression he was on the warpath and the teachers certainly seemed on edge. To her, it didn't seem like a friendly visit at all. Samples that moved through the halls seemed to be looking for something. A spy, perhaps? Stolen data? Her imagination whirled into action. What if Harrow harbored some deep, dark secret that they knew nothing about? A secret society, perhaps? Or a rebellion against Inter? The pages of history were littered with secret societies, particularly in academic circles. Excitement bubbled at the edge of her imagination, thoughts washing back over the day till they snagged once more on Sample 87. What if he were real? Not just real to her, but here in the flesh. Given the rumors about Sample's abilities and origin, it was unlikely they were human. They were far more like machines. And with AI and VR, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility for him to seem human enough. She thought of the Sample at the gate. His presence was oddly familiar. But her eyes rolled off hover drones and smart material skyscrapers that flashed by as she forced out a sigh. Honestly, she scolded, an imaginary friend at her age really was pushing the limits of sanity. It was time to grow up. She resolved not to think of 87 anymore. More than that, grabbing the little security droid from where he hovered overhead, she switched him off and put him away in her bag. No more. No more pretending creature comforts were companions. City gardens flashed by, and by the time her pod pulled up at home, she was fully committed to task. When Taylor was back, she'd meet up with her and the others. No more hiding away in her room, no more daydreaming, no more pretend. To her surprise, Mum's pod was already in the drive, and the realization struck. The sandwiches. She forgot to dispose of them. Her eyes flicked to the tall fence at the boundary, thoughts turning to its owner, old Mrs. Rose. She was a grumpy old woman, as thorny as her name suggested, and despite her many wrinkles, had no smile lines whatsoever. Her distaste for nature had long robbed the old woman of any desire to explore her beautifully large garden. Grace felt her heart leap. It was lined with thick rhododendrons. She never thought she'd say this, but thank God for old Mrs. Rose. There was no way she'd find those rotten sandwiches. Slipping the Ziploc bag over the fence, Grace felt the weight of the world lift, the pat of its fall like one on the back. Standing on the porch, waiting for the front door to scan the network of capillaries in her hand, it gave a friendly bleep and clicked open. She was surprised to find no sign of Mum. She expected to find her in the kitchen, or coming out of the lounge ready to air whatever grievance had kept her from the spa, but the house was eerily quiet. Dad's work lay abandoned on the kitchen counter. Then it came from upstairs, a sound that cut right through her, the sheen of cold steel between each heavy thud.